When you order a rideshare, you expect a safe ride home, not a one-way trip into a nightmare. But in Kalamazoo, Michigan, what started as an ordinary Saturday night turned into a chilling manhunt, a city gripped by fear, and a heroic stand that saved countless lives. Tonight, we dive into the shocking true story of the Uber Killer, a trusted driver who turned predator, and the survivors who refused to be his victims. Stay with us as we unravel every twist, every act of courage, and the horrifying night that changed rideshare safety forever. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. These real-life stories are more than just headlines. They carry lessons that could save your life. To millions of Americans, calling an Uber has become second nature. A tap on a screen, a stranger arrives, and off you go. But what if that stranger isn't who they seem? Between 2017 and 2020, Uber reported nearly 10,000 assaults and over 120 fatalities linked to its platform in the U.S. alone. Source: Uber U.S. Safety Report, 2021. Most of these incidents faded into statistics, but not what happened in Kalamazoo, Michigan on February 20th, 2016. That night, the routine convenience of ride-sharing turned into a nightmare. The man behind the wheel was 45-year-old Jason Dalton. By day, a seemingly ordinary father and husband. By night, an Uber driver blending into the fabric of the community. But beneath the surface, something sinister simmered. Dalton spent the evening ferrying passengers around Kalamazoo, smiling, chatting, taking payments. But in the quiet spaces between rides, his true nature revealed itself. 6 innocent lives lost, 2 more forever changed, and an entire city plunged into fear. It began with a silver SUV creeping through a Kalamazoo suburb. A young mother, Tiana Carruthers, walking with a group of children. The car slows. A window rolls down. "I'm here to pick you up," Dalton says, eyes wild, voice unsettling. Tiana never ordered an Uber. Her instincts screamed, danger. She kept calm, ordered the children to keep walking. But Dalton circled back, gun drawn. What followed would mark the beginning of a rampage that shook America. Safety tip: before entering any rideshare vehicle, always verify the driver's name, photograph, and license plate number in the app. If something doesn't match, cancel the ride immediately. The Kalamazoo Uber shooting wasn't just another crime, it was a wake-up call. One that forced an entire nation to reconsider the hidden risks behind familiar apps and everyday rides. It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday in Kalamazoo. Winter was easing its grip on the Michigan city. The streets were damp with melting snow, and families were out enjoying the milder air. In a modest neighborhood, 25-year-old Tiana Carruthers was doing what she did best, looking after kids. Her 7-year-old daughter, Kanaya, her niece, and 3 other children trailed behind her as they crossed the street to meet a friend. For Tiana, being a young mom wasn't easy, but protecting these kids, that was second nature. Suddenly, a silver SUV screeched to a halt right in front of them. Behind the wheel sat a heavy-set man with graying hair and wild, unreadable eyes. "I'm here to pick you up," he called out, voice cold, almost rehearsed. Tiana's instincts flared. She hadn't called for an Uber. Something about the man's demeanor chilled her to the core. "We didn't order a ride," she responded, clutching Kanaya's hand tighter. Her heart pounded, but her face remained calm. The SUV peeled off, tires shrieking. Relief washed over Tiana, but only for a moment. Seconds later, the car returned. This time, there was no conversation, no pretense. Jason Dalton reached for a gun. "Run!" Tiana shouted, her voice fierce, commanding. The children bolted, but Tiana, she stood her ground. The bullets came fast. Tiana's body absorbed the gunfire meant for the children. Her legs, shoulder, riddled with wounds. But she stayed upright as long as she could, shielding the little ones with everything she had. Neighbors heard the shots and rushed to help as Dalton sped away. Paramedics arrived in time to save Tiana's life. But the damage was severe. Her clavicle and legs shattered. A bullet lodged near her liver. The physical scars would last a lifetime. But in that moment, Tiana had done the unthinkable. She had stood between a killer and 5 defenseless children. Safety tip: If you sense danger from a vehicle or stranger, trust your instincts and create distance immediately. Teach children to run to a safe place and seek help if you give a signal. Kalamazoo was reeling. The news of a young mother gunned down in broad daylight rippled across the city. But what no one yet knew, the nightmare was only beginning. After shooting Tiana Carruthers, Jason Dalton vanished into the night, blending back into the role of an ordinary Uber driver. As though nothing had happened, he picked up unsuspecting passengers, ferried them to their destinations, all while carrying a gun and a storm of violence within. By the time police connected the dots, it was too late. More lives had already been lost. Dalton switched vehicles, swapped weapons, and turned Kalamazoo into his hunting ground. Frantic 911 calls flooded in. A father and son shot at a car dealership. Multiple victims, gunned down in a Cracker Barrel parking lot. Fear gripped the city. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together eyewitness accounts, license plate numbers, and surveillance footage. But Dalton's movements were erratic, blending with legitimate Uber fares to evade capture. Safety tip: when using rideshare services, share your trip status with a trusted friend or family member through the app's safety features. It adds an extra layer of accountability. The manhunt intensified. Officers pulled over car after car matching Dalton's description. But with each false alarm, panic escalated. Then a breakthrough. A silver SUV spotted, driving suspiciously, avoiding officers, circling aimlessly. A short but tense car chase followed. The vehicle finally pulled over. Guns drawn, body armor secured. Officers approached, prepared for the worst. But instead of opening fire, Jason Dalton slid his arms out the window and surrendered. For the residents of Kalamazoo, the nightmare wasn't over. But the hunt was. The real battle for justice was only beginning. The nightmare that gripped Kalamazoo wasn't confined to daylight. On the evening of February 20th, 2016, the city descended into fear as Jason Dalton's rampage continued. What began with the attack on Tiana Carruthers escalated into a deadly spree that stunned the nation. Dalton, driving a black vehicle now, prowled the streets, blending once again into the world of ride-sharing and ordinary drivers. But he wasn't looking for passengers. He was hunting. At a local car dealership, Richard Smith and his teenage son, Tyler, were shopping for a vehicle, unaware they were moments from becoming Dalton's next targets. Shots rang out. Both father and son were gunned down in cold blood. But the terror didn't end there. Dalton moved onto a Cracker Barrel parking lot, where 14-year-old Abbie Kopf sat with her surrogate grandmother, 68-year-old Barbara Hawthorne, and family friends. They had just finished dinner, the conversation light, the mood cheerful. Dalton crept into the lot, blocked their vehicle, and opened fire. 4 women were killed instantly. Abbie, struck in the head, was left for dead, but miraculously, she clung to life. First responders rushed the teenager to Bronson's Children's Hospital, where her condition teetered on the edge. Doctors prepared her for organ donation, convinced she wouldn't survive. But Abbie's story wasn't over. Safety tip: when in parking lots or garages, stay aware of your surroundings. Avoid lingering in your vehicle. If you spot suspicious behavior, don't hesitate to leave the area or call for help. The city of Kalamazoo was paralyzed with fear. A trusted app had turned deadly. Families grieved, hospitals filled, and an entire community prayed for the nightmare to end. If you found this story eye-opening, subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that remind us of the dangers and the heroes hidden in plain sight. Like, comment, and share to spread awareness. 4 hours. The waiting room at Bronson's Children's Hospital was a place of unbearable silence and quiet prayers. 14-year-old Abbie Kopf lay in a hospital bed, her body battered, her skull shattered by a bullet from Jason Dalton's gun. Doctors fought to stabilize her as her mother, Vicky, stood frozen in shock. At first, the news was grim. Abbie had been declared dead. Nurses prepared her body for organ donation. Her grieving parents were ushered into the room to say goodbye. But as Vicky wept, clutching her daughter's hand, she felt something. A faint squeeze. "Please," she begged the nurses. "Check her pulse again." Skeptical but compassionate, the staff relented. Moments later, the unimaginable. A heartbeat. Abbie wasn't gone. Not yet. Rushed into emergency surgery, Abbie's fight for life began anew. But even if her body survived, doctors warned there might be no brain activity. 4 days, Abbie lay in a medically induced coma. Her family never left her side. Then, a miracle, Abbie moved her hand. More than that, she traced the letter B into her mother's palm. She was asking about Grandma Barb, the woman who had shielded her with her own body that night and lost her life. The road to recovery would be long and grueling. But Abbie, she was still here. Safety tip: in traumatic emergencies, never lose hope too quickly. Medical conditions can shift rapidly, and even faint signs matter. Always ask for clarity and updates from professionals. Abbie's survival was a beacon of hope amid the darkest night Kalamazoo had seen. The manhunt had ended, but for Kalamazoo's officers, the danger hadn't. Jason Dalton sat behind the wheel of his SUV, arms dangling from the window in surrender. But with a man capable of such violence, complacency was deadly. Body armor secured, weapons drawn, police cautiously approached. Every step forward pulsed with tension. This was a man who had gunned down innocent people at random. The threat wasn't over until he was in custody. But Dalton didn't resist. He stepped out, hands raised, face expressionless. Inside his vehicle, police found 2 handguns, ammunition, and chilling evidence linking him to the night's atrocities. Back at headquarters, Dalton began to speak. His story, disturbing. He claimed his Uber app transformed into a demonic head that took control of him, commanding the killings. Detectives listened, but not because they believed him. They needed details, confessions, clues. And Dalton, in his unstable state, offered plenty. Step by step, they pieced together the nightmare. But even as the community exhaled in relief, one thing remained clear: the fight for justice had only begun. The wheels of justice finally turned to the survivors. For Tiana Carruthers, the young mother who had shielded children from Jason Dalton's gunfire, testifying was more than duty, it was personal. Years had passed since that terrifying day, but the physical and emotional scars remained. Her body, rebuilt with metal rods and plates, was a testament to her courage. Her mind carried the heavy weight of trauma. The courtroom was packed. Cameras rolled. And in the next room, Jason Dalton sat, hidden from view, watching. Tiana's voice trembled at first as she recounted the attack. But as the memories poured out, the fear, the pain, the determination, her strength returned. She described the silver SUV, his wild eyes, the chilling moment he circled back, the split-second decision to shield the children with her own body. Dalton's defense, insanity. But Tiana's calm, detailed testimony painted a different picture, a cold, calculated predator. The weight of the trial wasn't easy to carry, but Tiana knew the truth mattered. Safety tip: if you are a witness or victim preparing for court, lean on support networks, family, counselors, and legal advocates. Your voice is powerful, and your story can help protect others. Her testimony was raw, emotional, but unshakable. For the first time in years, the scales of justice began to tip. The trial of Jason Dalton gripped not only Kalamazoo but the nation. After months of hearings and testimonies, the Uber killer finally stood before the court to face his fate. No more insanity pleas. No more demonic possession claims. Just cold, hard facts, and the grief of a community that refused to forget. Dalton, now emotionless, listened as survivors and families of victims shared their pain. The jury, having heard every horrifying detail, deliberated. The outcome: swift, unanimous. Jason Dalton was found sane, fully aware of his actions, and guilty on all counts. 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, multiple firearm violations. The judge's sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. There would be no more running, no more lies. Tiana Carruthers, still recovering physically and emotionally, watched from the gallery. She wasn't just a victim. She was a survivor, a protector, and now a symbol of resilience. For Abbie Kopf, who continued to heal and rebuild her life, the verdict brought some closure. But it would never erase the scars, visible and invisible, that Dalton's rampage left behind. Families of the victims embraced one another, tears falling freely. Justice was served, but their loved ones were still gone. Yet, through the heartbreak, hope flickered. Safety tip: after traumatic events, seek professional counseling or support groups. Healing is a process, and no one should walk that path alone. Jason Dalton's name would forever be tied to senseless violence, but the strength of Kalamazoo survivors ensured that his actions did not define their futures. The community vowed to remember the victims for their lives, not their deaths. For Abbie Kopf, waking up from a coma was only the beginning. The 14-year-old survivor had defied death, but the road ahead was long, painful, and uncertain. Her head injury left her with retrograde amnesia. Every day, she had to be reminded of what happened, not just the shooting, but the brutal loss of her beloved grandmother, Barbara. At first, she couldn't retain the memory. Her mother, Vicky, would gently explain, again and again, "You were shot in the head. Barbara saved you." Each time, it broke Abbie's heart all over again. Physically, the recovery was brutal. She had to relearn basic skills, walking, speaking, and even remembering familiar faces. But Abbie was determined. Her bravery captured the hearts of the nation. News outlets followed her progress, turning her into a beacon of hope amid tragedy. 2 months after Jason Dalton's conviction, Abbie marked a milestone many doubted she'd reach. She attended her high school prom. Dressed in a sparkling gown, her scars hidden beneath layers of courage, Abbie danced, laughed, and celebrated life. It wasn't just a dance. It was a victory. For her, for Barbara's memory, for Kalamazoo. Safety tip: parents and guardians, teach your kids basic emergency responses, like staying hidden or quiet during dangerous situations. Abbie's quick thinking during the attack saved her life. Her story isn't defined by the bullet that shattered her skull, but by the strength that carried her forward. The Kalamazoo shooting was a tragedy that shattered families, broke hearts, and scarred a community. But it did not break them. Tiana Carruthers, the young mother who shielded children with her own body, did more than survive. She rose above it all. Despite the physical pain and emotional trauma, she now travels the country as a motivational speaker, turning her painful experience into a powerful message of hope and resilience. Her story proves that no matter where you come from, or how difficult your past, your circumstances don't define you. Abbie Kopf, the 14-year-old who stared death in the face, continues to recover and rebuild her life. She may carry the scars, but she also carries a reminder that courage comes in many forms. The families who lost loved ones, Barbara Hawthorne, Richard and Tyler Smith, Mary Lou Nye, Mary Jo Nye, and Dorothy Brown, continue to honor their memories, not by dwelling on how they died, but by celebrating how they lived. In Kalamazoo, they are no longer just victims. They are survivors, heroes, and symbols of a community's unbreakable spirit. Safety tip: stay vigilant when using rideshare apps. Always confirm the vehicle and driver details before getting in, and share your trip status with a trusted contact. This story serves as a painful reminder, but also a beacon of what it means to fight back, survive, and heal. The Uber Killer's rampage left scars, but it couldn't silence the strength of Kalamazoo. If this story moved you, help spread awareness. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real-life stories that could save lives.